Good evening, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. My name is Joshua Awesome. I'm very excited to be here tonight. And for those who will be watching this from the United States, good afternoon to you guys. So the African Institute of the Mind was specifically designed to assist us Africans to mind our minds, one mind at a time. And we are pretty much excited to be here today, as we have been the last couple of months holding this Mind Your Mind. For some, it's a masterclass, for others, it's a conference. But most importantly, it is a family of minds that are interested in being vulnerable to the point where they are able to support others to basically mind their minds. And I'd like you to, if you don't mind, type into the chat box one thing that you are grateful for and about today. And as you type it, let me just quickly say to you that it's not an activity, it's an action step that is communicated and connected to your brain and eventually gets communicated to your cells. And aside being communicated to your cells, it sends a signal to your autonomous nervous system, thereby bringing you into a good space and a good place. And I hope that you can take that as something worth practicing. Every day you wake up, take note of at least one thing that you should be grateful for. Having said that, I'd like to welcome everybody from across the African continent. I'd like to also welcome those of us who are in the southern tip of this beautiful continent of Africa. And so to start, I would just like to just take a moment and just read maybe one or two things that I see. Teboho, who is a chairperson, saying that she is grateful for curiosity, and she's grateful for everyone, and everyone means every one of us, everyone who is chiming in from wherever it is they're chiming in from. We have a tradition here. At some point, we will welcome everyone to say something if they want. If they have questions, we will give you the floor to express what is impressed upon you. But aside that, I would like to just take this moment to also mention that this conference is actually being streamed live on YouTube. So at some point, we will gladly share the contents with you at no cost to you. And that is one of our goals, to be able to share this content, this conference free, and also share the videos and the learnings free of charge. So I'm going to share my screen with you all. And interestingly, I'm going to share it for a particular reason. And the reason why I'm going to share my screen is primarily because of something very interesting that we would like to share with everyone, to basically just connect with us and hear what we have to say. So, all right. So officially, this is the third Mind Your Mind conference. For some, they would see it as a masterclass. It is a brainchild of the African Institute of the Mind. And our corporate partner is Awesome Associates. To those who are in West Africa, to those who are in South Africa, we are seen as Awesome Coach, Team Build, and Training Systems. Having said that, I'd like to just take a moment to just express gratitude to our past speakers from around the world. The photographs you see on the screen are persons who have, at one point or the other, shared this platform. To the lower right, and if you see me rubbing the cursor over a photograph, and this photograph is the photograph of a distinguished lady who is based in Washington, D.C. Her name is Laurie J. Cameron. Laurie J. Cameron is the author of a 5-star book on Amazon, and it's referred to as a 5-star book because if you order it from wherever you order the book from, even if they've run out of copies from where they will be shipping from, Amazon will send it from wherever it is available. And I speak as one who's ordered this for about 20 plus executives. And Laurie has over 20 years of experience as an Accenture executive before she then went on to set up her own practice that basically focuses on mindful leadership. We've also had the privilege to also host Bill Duane. Bill Duane used to be the superintendent general for Google. He looked after the entire well-being of all members of Google in San Francisco. We've had the privilege to host Bill also at one of our Mind Your Mind conferences. And in the course of today's session, I will highlight something that connects to Google, but is also very relevant to what we'll be talking about today. We've also had the privilege to host Dr. Maimouna Kadiri. Dr. Maimouna Kadiri is a celebrity shrink who looks after a couple of celebrities in the West African part of our beautiful continent. But aside that, she also runs a practice of our own in West Africa. We've also had the privilege to host a distinguished friend and colleague of mine, a Jamaican American by the name of Dr. Harry Paul Benjamin. Dr. Harry Paul Benjamin is also a best-selling author of a book titled A Book of New Thoughts. I was privileged to also be one of those who wrote an advance praise for that book. In our very last edition of this conference, we hosted Arinola Adeniyi. Arinola Adeniyi is a corporate wellness coach and looks after the well-being of several corporations in Nigeria. And she also owns an executive wellness spa called Venevici. I'm mentioning all of this so that you have a picture of the various contents that we are happy to share with anybody who is keen to go to back editions of our conferences and Mind Your Mind masterclasses. And we gladly shared free of charge because of our call to assist everyone who is keen to have their minds minded, one mind at a time. Which leads me to the very next thing that I'd like for us to just take a moment to just focus on. It's not news that the coronavirus has ravaged the world and continues to ravage the world. And over 1 million persons have been, infected by the virus since its inception. Now, one of the things that we all know is that panic has gone viral. And because panic has gone viral, people do not have control over externals, and various externals will emerge that will lead to emergencies, and that will lead to crises and challenges of all sorts in all spaces and in all types of places. But that is one of the reasons why we're here, and here to help. A revered mindfulness teacher referred to the word help as hello, eternal, loving provider. In other words, we sometimes need to realize that when we are in that space and place that is beyond our control, we should be open enough to ask for help. Another mind who I tend to respect says that when we need help, we should ask, because asking is itself the portrait of humility. And you may be wondering, this image on the screen that is being projected to us right now, what it represents. And the gentleman you see on the screen is holding his cell phone, but his mouth is open. The reality is that there's so much happening around us that is making people's jaws to be dropped. But it's not as important as what is happening inside us. We don't have control of the external. The place and space we can have control over is the internal. And today, to begin this session and this Mind Your Mind masterclass, this Mind Your Mind conference, I would like to invite everyone who is on the other side watching to please kindly just give us your attention as we share this video, and invite you to be open enough with an open mind to benefit from the beauty that what we're about to share will bring to your space. Enjoy.
There are all sorts of feelings, like fear, anxiety, or stress. A little stress can be helpful. It can be the motivator that keeps us self-isolating or washing our hands. But constant or high levels of stress can negatively affect our mental and physical health. Taking care of our minds is always important, but doing so in the middle of a pandemic can be really tricky. Here are some tips and techniques to help us all get through this. Start your day well. It can be tempting to reach for your phone or switch on the news first thing in the morning, but starting the day with a simple mindfulness exercise, such as notice 3 things, can help you check in with how you're feeling and to connect with your environment. Mindfulness is well known to make people feel calmer and cope better with stress. This quick exercise takes less than a minute. Before you get out of bed, pause and concentrate on 3 things you can see. For example, your patterned curtains, the blue sky, or even just a light bulb. Then listen for 3 things you can hear: the sound of cars passing by, a singing bird, or the hum of your boiler. And finally, notice 3 things you can feel in contact with your body: your PJs, bed sheets, or even your cat. Get planning. Although it's tempting to stay curled up in bed, adapting and creating positive new routines can be helpful and keep you motivated. For example, in the with your morning commute or a school run, listen to a podcast or go for a walk. Incorporating some form of exercise outdoors if possible into every day is good for mental and physical well-being. And set aside time to speak to friends, family, or work colleagues every day. Connecting with others releases feel-good hormones that help to relieve stress. Stay informed, not overloaded. Although we are able to cope with some stress here and there, being constantly exposed to a rolling, fear-inducing newsfeed can impact your mental health. Hearing upsetting or anxiety-provoking news triggers a stress response in our bodies. Keeping informed is important, but managing your social media and information intake will make a big difference to how you feel. Try to limit the time spent listening to, watching, or reading things about the outbreak. 1 or 2 reliable sources for news, and check them just once or twice a day to stay informed. If feelings of anxiety spring up in your day, try a breathing technique, such as box breathing. Concentrating on and controlling your breathing is a scientifically backed way of making you feel calm. Box breathing is quick, easy, and can be done anywhere. Breathe in deeply through your nose for a count of 4. Hold your breath for 4. Breathe out completely through your mouth for a count of 4. And hold your empty breath for 4. Then repeat 4 times. Getting ready for bed. Good quality sleep makes a big difference to how you feel, but feeling worried or anxious can make getting to sleep difficult. You could set a coronavirus news curfew so you don't watch or read anything to do with the outbreak after 7 p.m. and aim for a regular bedtime. You might also find it helpful to avoid caffeine before bed, not eat or drink too much late in the evening, have a warm bath, and keep screens out of your bedroom. If getting to sleep is proving tricky, you can try the body scan. This simple exercise helps you to relax both your mind and body, and with practice, you might find that it even sends you off to sleep. Whilst you're lying in bed or resting, take your attention to your feet. Relax and soften them into the bed as much as possible. Then scan up your body, moving to your ankles. Release any tension and soften them into the bed. Once they feel relaxed, move up further to your calves, then knees, thighs, and so on. Keep moving slowly up your body all the way to your head, softening and relaxing every muscle along the way. We hope these simple daily steps will help. Take care.
All right. I hope that mini share brought some form of insight and inspiration. So if you can, please type in the chat box one thing that stood out from the short video we just watched, and let's get your feedback in that regard. All right. So while you're busy typing that, I'd like us to just get ourselves ready for the next part of our conference or masterclass tonight. And may I quickly say that every one of us who's here tonight, if you open your mind like an empty glass that wants to be filled, you will leave something good. You will leave with something good or something great from this. I promise you that. And so I really and truly am going to ask you to have an open mind. Before we go on what we basically highlighted, the one thing that I recall was that they gave us an example called box breathing. And I'm going to ask everyone right now to join me for a short box breathing. So where you are right now, joining us, take a moment. If you want, you can either lower your gaze or close your eyes. And as you lower your gaze or close your eyes, can I ask also that everyone please keeps their microphones on mute? Let's keep that as a Zoom conference protocol here so that we're not distracting anybody from what we're about. Either close your eyes or lower your gaze. And as you close your eyes or lower your gaze, I'd like you to breathe in to the count of 4. Hold it. And now count 4. Now breathe out through your mouth to the count of 4. Hold it. Now breathe in through your nose again to the count of 4. Hold it. Count down 4 again. Now breathe out through your mouth to the count of 4. Again, in to the count of 4. And out to the count of 4. Hold it. Let's breathe in again to the count of 4. Hold it. Now let's breathe out through our mouth through the count of 4. Hold it. And one more time, let's breathe in to the count of 4. Hold it. And one more time, let's breathe out with our mouth to the count of 4. And you may open your eyes, or if you are lowering your gaze, you may now return to the room. Now, if you've never done this before, I'd like to tell you that what you just did is called being mindful. You took mindful breaths, and I speak to you as one who has some specialized training from a revered institute that specializes in reducing stress, founded by a gentleman by the name Dr. Jon Kabat-Zinn. And I can tell you that it is not linked to any religion, even though religions are using it to help people. It is basically a scientific practice that we were blessed with, that we have over time not been put into good use. My hope is that whatever that activity, however long you did that activity, you will hopefully have gotten something from it. So just to move us forward, I would like to, at this point, just welcome everybody. And as we welcome everybody, I'm seeing some people type in that, you know, it brought them to a place of being relaxed. I see, you know, someone saying that it you know, was able to help them. And I remember also asking, what did we learn earlier from the 4 minutes of video that was shared? Someone said, it was Goodness that said, you know, it helps to stay stress-free. Teboho says for her, keeping the screen away from the bedroom. And basically, the reality is that all of us will learn different things at different points and at different times. And I think what is apt right now is for me to begin to wrap up my bit of this as I introduce to us Teboho Ngoyi. Teboho Ngoyi is our keynote speaker for today, and she will be talking to us for the next 15 minutes thereabout. And hopefully, if there's any questions for her, we will be able to entertain it. At this point, I'd like to just welcome Teboho for her presentation. All right, over to you, Teboho.
Thank you, Joshua. Good evening, everyone. As Joshua said, my name is Teboho. I'm a creative consultant, and I'm also in learning and development. So today, basically, we're going to talk about, and I'd really like this to be an interactive session where we start talking about how do we unlock creativity when it comes to our youth, and how can we help them to unlock this creativity? I've put up a couple of slides, which really are just pointers and just for everyone to see why creativity is very important. And it's not just about our youth, it's about ourselves as well. Before we even go into the slides, I would like to ask everyone just one basic question, one simple question. How many of us remember our childhood? How many of us remember what it was to be a child? If you can raise your hand, you can put your videos on, just so that it's an interactive couple of minutes. You can put your videos on and we can have a chat about it. Just to see how many of us still remember those moments of our childhood. Tamilalo says he can't remember much of his childhood. So does Goodness. Goodness says they can't remember. She can't remember much of her childhood. And the reason why we can't remember much of our childhood is because as children, we were so free to do so many things. As children, we were very creative. I think about what it is when I buy my daughter a toy. And from the time that she was very young, when I used to buy her a toy, the first thing that she would do is actually take it out of the box, put it in a corner, and go and play with the box. And the reason she would do that was basically because the box was anything to her. The box could be anything to her. The box could be a car. The box could be a castle. The box could be a dollhouse. With some boxes, she would make her own dollhouses. And this is how important creativity is. And at a young age, we are very much in tune with our creative side of things. We are very much in touch with who we are. That is why we speak about curiosity. A lot of our children are very curious. When you start saying something or when they need to find out something, they'll always be asking you why. And that speaks to that curious mind that we as adults want to then box and pack away because we have to conform. We feel we need to conform to society. And when it comes to our youth, in terms of helping them to unlock this creativity, there's a couple of things that we need to bear in mind. We need to bear in mind that it's important to encourage resilience, which is also part and parcel of creativity. You can't be creative and not be resilient. You have to be a very resilient person in order to express your creativity. We need to be able to teach and to mentor certain things when it comes to our youth. And yes, I know when it comes to them, our youth believe that they know a lot, they know everything. They are aware of everything. And we can only say so much because a lot of what we are saying or a lot of what they believe they know is what we've already forgotten as adults. We can help them break through certain barriers, barriers of not being independent enough to be their own person, not being able to identify with who they are. When we start talking about creativity, we start talking about who are you as an individual? What do you have to show off? Because that's basically what creativity is about. I've already gone into my slides. In terms of unlocking that creative mind. Okay, we talk about who are you as an individual, showing off who you are as a person and being able to identify with who you are and showing off what you have to offer. It's important to show off what you have to offer. It's important to be your own person and to be your own individual. It's important also to show the world that you can make up your own mind, and you're not always influenced by other people. You know, you're confident enough to say, okay, I will not be influenced by the pack. I will not follow the pack, which is what we want our youth to do. We want our youth to be their own people. We want them to have their own voices. We want our youth to use that mind, that creative mind that they have, in order for them to be active in society, in order for them to be able to communicate. What we're seeing right now, which is what I was talking about with my niece. My niece is also she's very creative. She's doing a degree in arts and she wants to become a producer. And we were talking about how creativity unlocks so much in a young person. It unlocks the fact that, you know, you can actually be empathetic with other people. You can show your emotional side. You can be so much in touch with yourself and with who you are, that creativity allows you to unlock that vulnerable side, that is able to show that feeling, that is able to say to people, you know what, I understand what you're going through. I might not be going through it, but I'm able to walk in your shoes with you in order for me to understand what it is that you're going through. Creativity allows for our youth to have an open mind, to have a creative mind, to have a mind that is always active, you know, always asking the questions, always being at a point where you're so curious that you ask the different questions. You are allowed, and you are allowed to ask the questions, and nobody says to you that don't ask this. You can only say certain things, you know, which is important to us as adults, because the minute we start saying no all the time, what we are then doing is we are suppressing that creativity. And that is why it's so important for us to allow Curious George to happen and to play his part, to allow the young people in our midst to be who they want to be, and to support our young people. One thing that we forget as adults, as we grow older, we forget to build that intercultural connectedness, to build those intercultural connections, and to nurture confidence within our youth, you know. And also we forget to instill that curiosity, and which is why I was saying it's important for us to allow Curious George to pop out, because with all that curiosity, there's so much fun to be had with all that curiosity. It brings about that fun element of creativity. And when it brings about that fun element of creativity, you are able to express yourself. You're able to become your own person. You're able to unlock so much more of yourself that people don't see. And this is when you become an individual. You become an individual. You open, creativity allows you to open your heart and doors to your mind. You know, it allows you to be and to bring that hidden part of yourself, which speaks to, again, going back to the empathy. It speaks to, again, being able to feel what the next person is feeling. When we think about it right now, our youth, a lot of our youth believe in avatars. When you say to a person, please can you put up a picture of yourself, they'll put up a picture of an avatar. That avatar is, yes, a figment of their imagination, but it's not who they are. It's very important to always bring about your authentic self. It's always very important to bring about that vulnerability, because when you start bringing about that vulnerability, people can start associating with the true you. And that is what is important to people, to engage with an authentic person is very important. In terms of creativity instilling that curiosity, it encourages our young people to question, and it encourages them to engage. Engagement is very important, and it encourages them to start asking those whys. When you start asking the questions and you start bringing out that curiosity, it starts giving you a voice. And when you are creative, that creative expression, it helps to capture ideas and it helps to bring you together with people, which builds on teamwork, and also allows you to be open to other people's ideas. You are open to other people's ideas, and that is what we need in our young people. We need our young people to advocate for others and to also advocate for themselves, which is important, and that is what creativity brings about. We need our young people to be able to participate and to be active and to interact with others. Right now, we have a lot of young people, which is our youth, basically sitting in front of a screen, okay? Everything is all about themselves and it's all about that screen. How do I interact with the screen? How do I play the game? It's all about that connection with that gadget and not the connection with the actual living person who then will be a reflection of who you are. Creativity allows you to bring out that reflection. When engaging with creativity, our youth are not just passively listening. When engaging with creativity, what our youth are also doing is they're absorbing. They are absorbing so much, but they are also exploring and discovering a whole lot in terms of what there is around them. You know, they are also communicating. Okay, communicating and speaking and bringing out that voice that has been suppressed and been boxed because we want them to conform to society. And conformity is one of the biggest barriers that that we have that works against creativity. In terms of supporting our youth, we need to be more supportive of our youth, and the more we support them and the more we allow them to communicate, it makes them present. It allows them to be present and to also, like I keep saying, to be a member of society. And it's important for our youth to be members of our society, which is one of the things that we were talking about with my niece, where we were talking about how for her, when she looks at everything that is happening now within the world and the way our government is handling this whole coronavirus pandemic and excluding the youth, you know, for her, it's one of those things that says, you know, the youth do not have a voice. They do not have a voice, and for them, they feel suppressed. They cannot express that creative voice that they have. And because they have that voice, they think completely differently from us as adults. They've got new ideas. They look at things through different eyes, whereas we as adults are one-track minded. We are one-track minded. You either do it this way, and if you don't do it this way, you know, it's going to go wrong. We are so afraid to experiment and to work outside of this box, whereas with our youth, they should not be afraid to work outside the box, and they are not afraid to work outside the box. And for them, in essence, there is no box. There is no box because they want to interact, they want to participate, and we have to nurture that. We have to nurture the possibility, and to also stimulate and to motivate our young people to be able to be creative enough to say, you know what, I actually have a voice, and I would like my voice to be heard. Which way, when you look at it, creativity brings us beyond words, because when you start acting in a particular way, you allow one to view and to solve problems more openly. And that's what creativity does for us. It allows those open minds, and it inspires that collective thinking, which is very important, especially for our youth, because when they start getting together and they start to think outside of that box, that's when the magic happens. The magic happens at those moments when it comes to our youth, because for them, thinking outside of those boxes and being their own people is very important. Earlier on, I spoke about how creativity builds confidence. And when you are a confident young person, you do not succumb to peer pressure, which is very important. And we see our youth right now succumbing to peer pressure. And when you succumb to peer pressure, you then become a shadow to somebody else whose light is shining, who's creative in their own way, and who's bringing about their authentic selves. Whereas now you are now a follower, whereas you could be leading your own way and not following the next person. And we need to support this resilience when it comes to our youth. We need to be very supportive of our youth when it comes to creativity. And we need to listen and to also offer advice, because it is important as it is for us to listen and to offer advice to the young people in our midst. It's important for us to also remember what it is like to be creative. It's important for us to build those intercultural connections and to connect with the different cultures and the different subcultures, because we don't live in our own corner of the world and forget about forget about other people. It's like in when Winnie the Pooh talks to Piglet and says to Piglet, but Pig, you cannot live in your little corner of the forest, because the minute you start living in your little corner of the forest, everybody forgets about you, and you forget about connecting with other people and being happy and finding those moments with other people. For me, when I look at creativity and the different elements that come out of creativity, I look at how we've forgotten what it is to feel with the heart. We've forgotten what it is because we look at everything and we see everything through the eye, and we forget that it is only with the heart that one can see rightly, okay, and what is essential is invisible to the eye. And this is what we find in The Little Prince, the book The Little Prince. And in this very book, the Little Prince speaks to the fox and says to the fox, at one point, all grown-ups were children, but only a few of them remember what it is to be a child. And in remembering what it was to be a child, and in remembering how free you used to be as a child, that triggers those memories of what it is to allow our youth to be creative, and what it is to allow ourselves to be vulnerable and to be transparent with our youth in order for us to enhance this creative energy within them and to allow them to be the people who they are supposed to be. When you look at it, Ford is a manufacturer of cars. When we start talking creativity, Ford is a manufacturer of cars, and Ford being a manufacturer of cars and having been in the manufacturing industry for so long, for them, it's important to actually have a steering wheel in a car. And this is us as adults. For us as adults, it's important to know where we are going. It's important to travel in a straight line. And when Google and Apple came into the sphere of creating cars, they knew that it wasn't important to have a steering wheel. And this is how the driverless cars came into our midst, because they started thinking outside of the box and forgetting that there was a box, because it is possible. It is possible to drive, to get inside a car that doesn't have a steering wheel, where it's driven. And this is where we look at, when we start talking creativity and we start looking at where we are at as adults and where we want to go and where we would like our youth to direct us to. Artificial intelligence is our biggest enemy. And especially if we're going to be those type of people who are going to travel in a straight line and force our youth to travel in a straight line and not allow them to open up their minds and to have those active minds that allow them to solve problems in a completely different way. I'd like to close with a quote. One of the biggest barriers to our creativity and the opposite of bravery, which is what we don't allow our youth to do, the opposite of bravery is not being cowardly, okay? But it is conformity, which is what we would like our youth to do, which is to box them and to get them to conform to the way we've always been living. And that is my parting shot. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you so much, Teboho. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, for those who are here with us and for those who may not know, Teboho is also part of the African Institute of the Mind board. This is also to thank those who are joining us from via YouTube. Thank you, Tobile Magaman. Thank you, Mr. Taiwo on that side. Those are the few persons I noticed were also joining us. But I'd like to take a moment to just ask if anybody has a question. Anybody? If anybody has a question, please just indicate by lifting up your hand. There is a very interesting, yeah, Goodness. I see Goodness lifting up. So please be direct. We would give you access now, Goodness. Yeah, so Goodness, we're giving you the floor now. You may ask your question. Thank you.
Good evening, Dr. Awesome, and good evening, Ma. Thank you for the live concert. I really want to find out something because I'm the kind of person. Hello?
Yes, we can hear you. Go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, the kind of person that anything creativity, like it's as if I'm not too good at it. If I feel I know this thing, I want to do it. Like in drawing, I can't just capture what I need. And in flyer, or maybe I'm designing a flyer, I can't really get something perfect that people can see and it will spark up. Like, what's the mindset behind creativity?
Okay, so Teboko, that is for you. I hope you got the juice of the question.
Yes, I did. Hi, goodness. Um, you know, one of the things that we've stopped doing is believing in ourselves as we grow older. And it's those barriers that we've put in our way where you say, how do you get to be creative? You're actually creative. It's just about practicing what it is. Um, and remember, nothing needs to be perfect in order for it to be perfect. Because what you might think is imperfect, to another person, it's a wow moment. So when you think about creativity, do not put barriers in front of you. Do not conform yourself and box yourself and say, you know what, I can't do this. The minute you start saying, I can't do this, you block yourself from from bringing out that magic. If you're one of those people who, if you wake up at 2 o'clock in the morning and you've got a creative thought in your mind, or you want to draw something, sleep with a pen and paper next to your bed. And whatever time it is that you wake up and you have that picture in your mind, draw it. Draw it, because that might be the time that you're creative the most. Because the minute when you say, I want to sit at a desk and I'm going to be creative, that's never going to work, because the bulk of us are never creative at work. We are always creative outside of work. And that is the thing about creativity and thinking about, am I creative or not? You were born creative. Until you were taught to fit into a box. And that is when you started thinking that, you know what, I actually can't draw, and stopped believing in goodness.
All right. Well, I see I see Spanky Joe. That's the name that is coming up here.
Mm-hmm.
I hope you're not going to spank us with your question, but that was just a joke. But Spanky Joe, please, you may unmute yourself and ask your question. Thank you.
Good evening, Tebogo. Spanky Joe is my nickname. My name is Anthony Otuya Ndumishi.
Hi, Anthony.
Hello, Anthony.
It was my nickname that was put there. I made a mistake. I didn't change it. When you're with some people, they remember your nickname from high school.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just want to find out something. I mean, you talked a lot about young people and their zeal, their creativity. From your presentation, it looks like you were castigating older people. I'd like to get clarity.
You'd like to get, yes. The reason why I was speaking about older people is because if you look at our main topic today is how do we unlock that creative energy. And with a lot of us being adults, I'll keep going back to the fact that we always want to box our young people, because we've done it in a particular way and we want it to be done in that particular way. And that is why I keep going back to us as adults and saying, allow that curiosity, allow for our young people to, yes, we don't want you to speak your mind and be disrespectful. and that is why when we speak about creativity, we speak about being empathetic and understanding that people have got feelings, and coming to a point where when you do speak, you speak respectfully to people, but we have to allow our young people to make those faults. And hence I went back to saying, as a child, you were so free to go and adventure on your own. You were so free to experiment. And as an adult, we know what's wrong and what's right because somebody said it was wrong. So for us as adults, we need to allow our youth the resilience and the flexibility to do things and to get them wrong, which speaks to failing fast and failing forward, which brings about that creativity and brings about the innovations that are going to then allow our youth to come up with those wow ideas that we talk about, and start questioning themselves in different ways and thinking in different ways. So I wasn't really saying we as adults don't do, but all I'm saying is, let's build on those ideas that our youth come up with and not always break them down. Let's look at challenges, because creativity does bring about challenges. Let's look at those challenges as opportunities that we can actually build on and to help our youth. And hence, when I started by saying, how do we then help and assist our youth? How do we support them to unleash these creative minds that they have? I hope I answered you, Anthony.
Thank you so much, Teboho. I would like to just also bring up a few questions that we also received electronically. Someone was asking, can creativity be trained?
It can be trained, but you were born with creativity. It's an innate thing. You were born with creativity. You were born creative. And you lose it along the way as you grow up because you get taught certain things. That is why it's important to be creative. You have to unlearn certain things and to always go out there and try and figure things out for yourself. And if it means failing, fail and fail forward. Don't fail and think this is the end of the world. Fail, but fail forward, because the minute you fail and you fail forward, you fail, but you fail only to start over again. But when you start over again, you're not starting from the beginning. You're starting from where you left off. So yes, some people are taught to be creative. It's not even a matter of being taught to be creative. You're just reminded about the fact that you were born creative.
Right. Okay, thank you so much, Teboho. I think what I would like for us to take note of as we close, and is Teboho has shared so much with us. And Tony Otuya just responded via the chat box saying, that he got clarity around your question. Sorry, your response. And just before we close, I'd like to just draw our attention to a very interesting research data that talks to what creativity can feel like. And this is quite instructive and interesting, as the African Institute of the Mind, we're always constantly trying to bring research data that talks to some of the stuff that we're trying to focus on and highlight. So what I'm sharing, what I'm about to read, actually was written and placed in Harvard Business Review for August 2017. And it began with a question that, can 10 minutes of being mindful make you more creative? And interestingly, that article began to highlight how organizations like Google, like Goldman Sachs, like Metronix, among those who are leading and organizations globally that have introduced mindfulness as a practice to their employees. And the reason why I'm sharing it is because many times, as Teboho was talking about what she was talking about, the one thing that kept going through my mind as she explained it was trying to get us back to what we have lost. And for us to reconnect with that authentic self, with that creative juice, with that inner guide, with that intuitive side of us, we need to bring ourselves to a place where I would call it the midway, where we're not too caught up in working to the point where we are not bringing our minds to a rest state to be able to connect with that inner self. And earlier, when I did my introduction, I had highlighted that Bill Duane, who actually represented Google many years ago, when he was talking to us, was highlighting something very powerful and profound of how Google constantly was bringing their people into moments of mindfulness, and that began to assist them in creating solutions that the world now embraces. Has it occurred to us, and everyone who is watching this or will watch this, has it occurred to us that we no longer call research? We say, I want to Google that.
That's true.
And that is a place and space that they did not attain by accident. It was conscious, and Bill was very, very involved in bringing their people to that place where when people want to search, they don't say, I want to search. They say, I want to Google something. And there's something very profound about that, where you begin to work at what you want to see emerge from the past. As a matter of fact, what we're giving current attention to is stuff that we had either developed in the past and we want to see emerge in the future. That's why we are present with it. So here's my ask to everyone who's watching this or will watch this. Whatever you want to be present in your future, invest attention to it right now. Because when you go to bed tonight will be past. But the investment that you're put into today can become instrumental in birthing something beautiful in the future. And so as we close, I'd like everyone who is in this to commit themselves in some way. Type in the chat box, what action towards igniting or sustaining your creativity will you give attention to? And I'd like you to do that, because what you're indirectly doing is you're becoming accountable. You're choosing to be accountable. And whatever it is, send a mail to yourself about it. Type it in the chat box. Make it a WhatsApp status and commit to it. This is the end of June. The first half of the year 2020 ends at midnight. The second half of the year begins at 12:01. In other words, as you go to bed tonight, commit to reigniting that creative you, unlocking it amidst this lockdown, because there is no lockdown that can lock you out of living your creative self if you are genuinely interested in seeing you unlocked. And so I'd like to close with those thoughts and to thank every one of us who has been on this call. For those who are still here, I'd like to invite you, to, if you have one thing you'd like to say before we close, Goodness would like to give you the floor. What would it be? All right, we don't see Goodness there. If we have Damilola Folabi, I see there. If you're there, if you're still there, what would it be? What would be, your takeaway from this? If there's one thing you'd like to say.
Okay. Good evening.
Good evening.
Hello.
Go ahead.
Okay. Goodness. From this program, I would just like to say that I'll work on my mind work. Like, I do take out few minutes every day to think on my future, past, and all the rest. But sometimes I feel that it's just like a waste of time. But this is like an encouragement that no matter how I do it, that it's really laying up my future for me. So I'll press on and keep doing it. Thank you very much, Ma. Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much. Thanks, Goodness. Nothing is a waste, by the way. We should let you know. Everything is part of everything. There's nothing you do that is some way, somehow not adding to you. It is actually helping you. It might be on learning something, relearning something, learning something, but it's a lifelong journey of learning. And Tony, the mic is yours. Is there anything you'd like to? Final words. I see Damilola typing in the chat here that he will face his fears and just do it regardless. Excellent. I mean, the next best time to do that is now. I was hoping that Damilola will be able to come on and say it boldly, but it's okay. I mean, we're not going to hold you to that. And Tony, would you like to go ahead? Is there one last thing you'd like to say, or what will be your key takeaway? Over to you.
Okay, can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yeah, so basically today I've decided that I'll be more present. You know, as a thinker, you're always trying to process information. So I want to be more present and be more childish in a creative way, and childish in a progressive way.
Beautiful, beautiful, lovely. Thank you so much. Damilola, over to you now.
All right, thank you so much. It's unfortunate, but just like Teboho was saying, it's like adulthood comes with so many fears. You analyze the what ifs, so many variables, especially I have a family and all that. So you just think that, do I want to put my hand into this, and how will it end up, and all that. Yeah. The funny thing is, I tried something 7 years ago, and that should have taught me that there's nothing I can't do. But I don't know, somehow, there's still that limiting factor. So with this, I'm just gonna go head on. I have quite a number of things that I would have done for the over analyzing and all that. So I think I'll just face it head on now.
Lovely, lovely. We're delighted to hear that, some way, somehow you've decided to take action with this. So as we close, I'd like you to just, lower your gaze one more time. And if you can, close your eyes. If not, let's just basically just all bring all of ourselves to that place where we take a deep breath in and out. In and out. You may open your eyes. As the founder of the African Institute of the Mind, I'd like to thank everyone who has chimed in from wherever you've chimed in from around the world. I'd like to thank Teboho, who was our keynote speaker today. But most importantly, I'd like to thank everyone who will take time to watch this again or watch it for the very first time. The African Institute of the Mind is intentionally focused on minding our minds, one mind at a time. Same day, next month, we will be back here, regardless of the number of persons we show up. Our goal is to assist Africans to mind their minds. My name is Joshua Awesome. I feel very humbled, honored to have curated this. Please, if you have any questions, you can email assistant@theawesomecoach. And I'm going to type it into the chat box, assistant@theawesomecoach.online. If you have any questions, you can please email us and we will gladly send you this full conference video access via Zoom or via YouTube. It's a pleasure to have served you all. We hope that you'll be able to take this experience beyond this point, but most importantly, you'll be able to take action. I wish you the very best, and please take charge of life and don't just take care. Bye for now.
Cheers.